Hi, Jeff. Thank you. Well, you know what? Credit card fraud. It's been an issue for decades. And for years, we've all seen that stripe on the back of our credit cards. One swipe, a lot of our financial information can be used in not good ways and used against us. Well, now companies looking at this computer chip in the actual card. Good, bad thing? Our tech guy, Dave Hatter here joining us this morning. Dave, good morning.
Hey, Frank.
Okay, so Europe, they've had these cards since the 90s.
Yeah, going back to the 90s. It's not new in most of the world, but the U.S. has been kind of slow to adopt this because it's pretty expensive and it's going to cause gigantic upheaval in merchants and vendors who need point-of-sale systems.
Okay, so let's break this down. Some cards already have it in there. If you don't know if your card has it, what are you looking at on the card to see if you have this special chip?
If you look at the card, and for example, one of my wife's accounts was breached, so we just got a new card, and you'll see like a gold oval that kind of looks like a computer chip, and that's actually just a coating. But inside the card, instead of just that mag stripe on the back that has your information, there's an actual computer chip, and all your information that used to be in that mag stripe, plus you can store a lot more information on these cards, is encrypted. So even if someone gets the card, it's very difficult to counterfeit, and that's one of the things the banks are going with this. Right now, you can steal someone's card like through a skimmer, and you can go
swipe it.
Yeah, you can, well, or you just go reprogram a new card because the mag stripe on the back is easy to do. With these chips that are built into the cards, it's virtually impossible to counterfeit. So that's one of the reasons why banks are pushing this.
So why is it taking us so long to kind of get on board here? I imagine there's a cost in the card.
Good question, Frank. Yeah, there is. It's averages around $3.50 for the banks to produce one of these cards.
And our old cards are what, like 10 cents?
Yeah, a few cents to create the old mag stripe cards. Plus, every vendor that wants to use these cards has to have new equipment. There's two types. There's a contact card and a contactless cards. The contactless cards kind of work like Apple Pay or something where you can just get near it and it'll read the card.
Right. Or like when you go to Starbucks and they scan your phone or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But those are more expensive than the contact cards. You actually have to stick it in the machine. It has to sit in there for a second because one of the other benefits security-wise is when you use one of these cards, it creates a unique transaction code that can only be used once. Another way to protect you and protect the bank. So it's going to cost a lot of money for all vendors and banks to upgrade their equipment to do this. The deadline is October 1st.
So by October 1st, everybody is going to be switched over?
Well, in theory, but experts predict it's going to be somewhere to 50 to 60% of banks.
On the screen here, we're looking at this graphic. Walk me through this.
Yeah, that's basically showing you how a contact card would work. So you would take your card, you would stick it in a point-of-sale device or some merchant's device. And again, it's going to read the card, it's going to talk to the bank and determine do you have the funds, and then it generates this one-time transaction code. So
Got it.
Unlike the old school where you just swipe it and you're basically done, the process is a little different. And then depending on who issued the card and the equipment, you will either be required to enter a PIN at the end of the process or use a signature. And again, some of this stuff is still being worked out, so it depends on who's issuing the card.
Heck, you go back a couple decades and people were doing the swipe machine.
When I was in college, Frank, I worked at a drugstore where we still had the old swiper machines.
I did that at SeaWorld back in the early 90s. We would swipe them and boom, boom, ready to go. But the bottom line is this will cut down until somebody gets smart enough to figure out how to hack this.
Well, it's not going to stop data breaches if they break into a bank and get the bank's data, but it will be much harder to use that data because it's harder to counterfeit the cards, and it is a lot more secure for you. And one of the things that they've changed and why merchants are basically being forced to do this is they've changed the rules. And after October, if there is fraud where the card is present, where you use the card, then the vendor is liable for it instead of the bank. So needless to say, there's a huge push on to get people on these cards because they're much more secure, and it makes it less likely that Visa or MasterCard are going to get hit with these fees.
Well, we'll wait and see. Wait and see here, October 1st, the deadline there.
Yeah, it should be interesting. I don't think they'll be in place by then, but they're definitely coming out. I've got one.
Yeah, okay.